The next game I want to talk about is in a long-running line of games that have been coming out since the early 20 aughts. 20,
Ooh, that long. You're
it's been
right.
so long. That game is Pandemic, and the game that I'm specifically talking about is the newest Target exclusive game called Pandemic Rapid Response.
This episode is not sponsored by Target
Definitely
or
not.
Button Shy Games, but it is sponsored by, well, this is awkward, the new party game coming out from Button Shy Games.
This is so awkward.
I hate myself.
I hate you too.
Thank you.
Pandemic Rapid Response is designed by Kane Klenko, published by Z-Man Games. Kane Klenko, for those that don't know, is very famed for his dice rolling games, such as Fuse and Flatline. Fun games. I've played Flatline. I haven't played Fuse, but Flatline is just chaotic fun.
Fuse, that's an older game, right?
Yes.
I've heard of Fuse.
Yep.
Like 2012. Okay, yeah.
Yep. So, in Pandemic Rapid Response, exclusive to Target sponsors, please. Cut that.
Target,
Mark
no,
it.
please don't.
Mark it.
I don't
and
want
cut it.
sponsors. I actually don't think I want sponsors for this.
Mark it and cut it. We don't want the sponsors.
I'm actually just going to repeat it over and over again.
Oh no. So, anyways, in Pandemic Rapid Response, the world has come together and has decided that the state of where we are at is to a point where we need to assemble a team that is going to fly in a plane and essentially shove supplies to all the different major cities that are experiencing illness in order to curb the ever-growing pandemic illnesses that are populating our world. So we are all taking a role of a unique scientist that specializes in a single thing. And our objective is in real time to be able to visit upwards of like 5, 6, 7, 8 cities, depending on your difficulty, and create the supplies that are needed, go back to our cargo hold area and airdrop them to that specific city so that they are able to be saved, whether that be through vaccines, through food, through electricity, through water, etc. So, again, how this will work, you all given a roll, you all start off in this big giant airplane, you all have a bunch of really nice cool looking dice, as you can see, and the game begins by flipping over this timer, and one by one you will shake some dice, and you will use that roll, look at it, and see where you are specifically at in this airplane and whether or not you can do anything in terms of being able to power any of the supply areas to be able to gain, again, any of those different types of resources. You can spend a die to move one spot within the airplane, so you can go from room to room, and then you can also spend what are called flight icons on these die to essentially fly this airplane around the world, which is this track that exists around the outside of the board. So what will happen is that as you are in a specific area, so if we look here, there's like yellow, right? So yellow has this track going left to right that shows electric icons. So what you do is if your pawn is in that room and you roll dice and you have electric icons, you can place them on that track. However, if they are grouped together, you have to do those all at the same time during a roll. So for the electric track, you have to roll 3 electric dice and put them all onto that specific part of the board to complete that specific area. And when you do, you get a supply token that can go into your cargo hold. However, those dice remain locked until someone, again, activates it. So you put the dice there, but it doesn't give you it. You have to activate the specific room in order to then bring the supply to the cargo hold. And that kind of works for every single other place in that room. So the vaccines, the food, the water, the energy, etc., etc. And each one of these specific cards with cities on them has like a different unique thing. Like you need to collect 2 bandages, electricity, and a water. And then you have to fly your airplane all the way over to that city and then have someone in the cargo hold roll a plane icon and then activate the room in order to drop off all those things. The thing that I think is the hook behind this game is that all sounds well and good, but every single time you do these supplies, you run the risk of cluttering your ship. And so what happens is that if you push your luck and get this track all the way up to give you the maximum amount of supplies, you have to re-roll all those dice, and anything that shows a circular, like colored circle within the icon, that creates a piece of waste that is hazardous to your ship, which then moves this like waste counter up to 10. And if it hits 11, the game is completely over. You've littered your airplane to the point where you can't move anymore, and then the game just like ends. I don't know what that would be. So there's another space in the plane where one person might have to go and essentially clean out all of the stuff that the supplies stuff made, and you have to put in a die of every unique type of symbol in order to clear out all this trash. So, and again, you only have like, I don't know, 2 minutes, minute and a half, 2.5 minutes in order to do this. Every time you complete a city, though, you get an extra time token. So you're able to, what happens is like you complete the timer, you flip, you do a bunch of little maintenance stuff, you take a timer token off, you flip it, and then you keep going one by one. But every time you do a city, you get to bring one of those back. So that way you can always like keep moving. When we played this game, it was a fresh teach and play, right? So I had only kind of heard about the game. We just broke out the rules. We started playing. We got like the game 70% right, but we did a whole bunch of different stuff wrong. So for instance, when you play stuff onto a roll card, again, everybody takes their turn one by one. Anything that's on your roll card comes back to your active dice pool to roll. Instead, what was happening is that we were essentially having those be locked until we were able to like do something. I don't know. It made the game much more harder than it needed to be. We also didn't do the whole grouping thing right. That was a problem. And I also think we didn't do the thing where you have to roll a plain die. We were just like running and activating the cargo hold to do things. We still lost on easy, right? So it still had that very pandemic difficulty to it.
Challenge,
yeah. So I mean, it's you still have to all work together, but in all, it still kind of feels like it's got like the overall like just top cover of, hey, this is Pandemic. You're gonna see all the cities that you've seen in all of our games, pandemic wise, and illustration stuff is all within that line. But then you have that, the King Clanko, just like the franticness of like, pushing your luck, rolling those dice, putting them where they need to go, and hopefully working together to be able to complete it, gameplay. And so the merriment of the two work well. So what's weird is that, again, the game came off kind of weird. We've only played this game once, so this is more of like a first game impressions.
Yeah.
But knowing those rules and playing it again, I think is going to make for a much more intense experience. And I think this is a kind of a really like, if I compare this to Flatline is this big giant board. You have so much more dice, and it's really a lot more simplified in that it's like if you roll a die and you match a thing, just place it there and you're done.
Yeah.
In this game, you have to be a little bit more tactical with where you put your things. So it's like they've dialed it back, made it a little bit more strategic. And everybody like in Flatline just rolls constantly. Like it just is just chaos. In this game, it's chaos for one person. Everyone sees you frantically rolling your die. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So, in all, I give this a thumbs up for my impressions. I want to play it again, and hopefully that second playthrough, I think, ignites it to be able to push it up a skill level and see how far we can make it. It's almost like a speed run kind of thing. Like, how many time tokens can you have left before you complete the game kind of thing. Yeah. So
do you already have an admiration for Pandemic before you played this?
Yeah, I believe so. I've played regular Pandemic. I played halfway through Pandemic Legacy Season 1, which what it was doing, and I still don't want to spoil Pandemic Season 1, but what it did in the Legacy game was really cool. Like, I really dug what it was doing so far in that game. And so I never really got into the subsequent Pandemic titles, such as the one where you're in Rome, or you're the ones...
Spain.
Yeah, you're in Iberia, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, those ones I played, but I was like, it's just like, it's cool. It's like, it's kind of really flipping the hook of Pandemic it's like it reminds me a lot of like the Assassin's Creed video game series where they're just kind of hopping around to these different locales, and it's still being the core of Assassin's Creed, but it's like in some other biome. Pandemic is doing the same thing, and in this one they're just bringing it onto an airplane and you're just chucking dice.
I see.
And this is the type of dice chucking that I truly enjoy, because it's like, you know, you make do with what you have,
Right,
in
right.
pushing your luck,
So-
versus just like throwing the die and you're just like, well, I can't use this, or oh, I got lucky. So
I still hesitate to play any Pandemic. My experience, and it's not for good reasons. My experience with Pandemic is half of a game on my iPad 5 years ago. So, which I realize
back.
is a ridiculous excuse. I just have a hard time with co-ops, especially with one. I know that's like the co-op of all co-ops, right? Is Pandemic. It's not the first. What was the first co-op, you think?
so Forbidden Island was the game that came before Pandemic.
Oh,
So Forbidden Island
okay.
was the 5x5 tile series where you
Yes,
played
and I have
different
heard
roles,
that.
and you had to like jump to the different tiles to pick up treasure and make it to your helicopter before the whole island kind of collapsed.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there was Desert, and then there was Forbidden Sky, and then Pandemic came out after, I want to say either after or around the time of Forbidden Island, and that's
Okay.
the game that kind of catapulted into, or maybe it was afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Arkham. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. In the chat, someone said Arkham was the first co-op, and that does actually make a lot of sense because that's
My
been
f-
around
that was
forever.
That's his first co-op. Was the game that got me into board games. It was Arkham.
Oh, his first co-op. Oh,
Yep.
but I think Arkham is older than Pandemic.
Yes.
I feel like I'm making that up.
No, you're not. I think
Alright.
Arkham Second Edition, which is probably, I mean, it could be Arkham First Edition, but I think Arkham Second Edition is that big boy,
Oh yeah,
box, right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, that's cool. Okay, so I mean, in your Pandemic experience, where do you place this one?
in terms of what I played, it's probably around just regular Pandemic for me. Like, I want to
Yeah.
play this more than regular Pandemic. I played Pandemic Sans expansions a lot of different times, and it's still pretty exciting no matter what.
Yeah.
But I'm always liking for new ideas and things to come around that take a existing property and twist it. And I think this is a good twist. It's a twist in the right direction. It's not in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So that's where it is.
Have you played Flashpoint ever?
No.
So I played that a few years ago, and I did enjoy that as a co-op. I think that one was fun. I think my favorite co-op would have to be Robinson Crusoe. That's a great game. Is that one that you've played?
No, it's one that I had in my shelf of shame for so long, and then I just bid it fair due. It's just
Yeah.
because it was one of those games where I want to play it and just sat on my shelf, and then one day, as I just knew that some of these games needed to find a better home, I just looked at it and I was like, it's gotta go.
Yeah.
It's like it stinks when you come to that realization, but you kind of end up looking at games and realizing that you just don't need to wait for it. Like
That's true.
it can just go. So
I get it. That's
Yeah.
cool.
so yeah, Pandemic, Z-Man Games, Rapid Response. Pandemic, Rapid Response, Z-Man Games.